Testing 1 2 1 2. Man, I honestly can't stop refreshing my YouTube subscribers, so I don't know if you can see that, but it's up to fucking 9.4 thousand in literally the last couple of days. If you had told me a couple of fucking months ago, even weeks ago, that I'd nearly be on 10k by the end of October, I would have fucking laughed. Instagram and with TikTok, man, I'm fucking intelligent. I have brains. Like, I feel like I'm selling myself short in terms of what I could say. So I really enjoyed the idea of being able to do long form content and go a little bit more into depth. I'm going to start with this video today. So if you're particularly a beginner lifter who doesn't know their arse from their elbow when it comes to going into the gym, this is going to be a pretty good place for you to start in terms of designing up your very own workout program that's going to get you the best possible results and build you ultimately the best possible physique. So the mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to designing their workout program or following a certain split is that they pick a split and then they decide the amount of times that they're going to go to the gym. So I would rather you first decide on how many days a week that you're going to go to the gym. Then from there, you're going to pick a split that is going to be most suited to that. So for example, if you can only commit to going to the gym 3 days a week, you're probably going to be better off following a 3-day full body split. If you're going 4 days a week, maybe an upper lower split. If you're going 5 days a week, maybe a push pull legs, upper lower. And then if you're going 6 days a week, maybe a push pull legs, push pull legs. Now there's certain variations of splits within that. You can allocate more volume towards body parts that you'd like to prioritize and less body parts that you don't. But in general, that's going to be a pretty solid foundation for most people to begin with. So the second thing you need to decide on is when you're training legs. If you're one of these people who goes, oh, I don't train legs because my knee is sore, you may unsubscribe immediately from this channel and come back when your balls drop. Now, if you're someone who's going to the gym 3 days a week and hence following a 3-day full body split, you have to be prepared to sacrifice a little bit more in comparison to being able to go to the gym more frequently. Because if you can go to the gym 5 or 6 days a week, you're going to be able to do more overall work for all body parts than you can do trying to squeeze everything into a 3-day full body. So for some clients that just don't put in any specific arm work because they're going to be getting a degree of arm stimulation through like your big compound exercises like chest, back. And if I was to sprinkle in some arm work as well, they'll probably be in the gym for fucking ages, which so many people aren't really that prepared to do. That's not to say that you can't make really good gains on a 3-day full body split or even go to the gym twice a week. I've had a client who increased his bench press by 20 kilos over the span of 12 weeks, simply going to the gym twice a week. It just essentially means that if there was a big bar that represented 100% of the gains that you could possibly make, you could maybe salvage 100% of the possible gains by going to the gym 5 or 6 days. But if you can only really get to the gym 3 days a week, you might be able to salvage 80 or 85% of that total, which isn't a bad return on your investment, particularly when you consider that you're spending half the time over the course of a week inside in the gym. The next thing that you need to think about is how many sets and exercises per body part will you be capable of doing across the course of an entire week and properly recover from. So for most people, it's generally recommended somewhere between 10 and 20 sets per body part per week, but to be honest, I think that recommendation is for so I'm more inclined to recommend between 12 and 24 or 25 sets per body part per week, with obviously 24 or 25 sets being on the upper end of that spectrum. For me personally, I will do my bigger muscle groups closer to that 24-25 end of the spectrum, and my smaller muscle groups like biceps, triceps, calves towards the 9 to 12 sets per week end of the spectrum. By bigger muscle groups, I mean my chest, my back, and my quads. They require more of a stimulus in order to be completely toasted, and as well as that, because of their size, they require a number of different exercises done from a variety of angles in order to effectively target them and effectively grow them. But for example, something like your biceps, any sort of a curl variation, yes, you can play around the grips and angles of your arm, but ultimately any curl variation is going to be a pretty effective one for toasting completely your biceps. So then once you've decided on the overall amount of sets per body part per week that you're going to do or in and around, you can then think about how you're going to split that up across the course of the week. Now granted, if you've already decided to go with a 3-day full body split or a 4-day upper lower split, you probably have a good idea of how that's going to work. For example, your total leg volume, let's say you're doing 20 sets in the week for quads, you're doing 10 sets in the week for hamstrings, but then obviously you'll do 10 sets of quads on one day and 10 sets of quads on the other day, and you'll do 5 sets of hamstrings on one day and 5 sets of hamstrings on the other day. So apply that same logic to the other muscle groups with the other splits. And in general, you're looking to evenly divide the amount of volume that you're doing across the sessions that you're doing. So while you could in theory do all your weekly volume within one session, but the chances are you are going to be leaving some gains on the table, because the further that you advance through the workout, the less focused you're going to be, the more tired you're going to be, and the less productive ultimately the later sets are going to be. So rather than flogging a dead horse, doing 6 exercises for a particular body part in one session, you're going to be much better off splitting that into 3 exercises on one day, 3 exercises on another. Now with exercise selection, there's a lot of bullshit online about certain exercises killing your gains. But regardless of what Kathleen X says, any exercise that you can perform with a stable platform that targets each muscle relatively efficiently, that you're capable capable of adding appropriate load to over time and progressively getting stronger with that exercise over time is going to be a pretty good exercise. So based off of the above steps, if you're looking to hit 9 sets of a particular muscle group in one session, your best shout is probably going to be picking 3 exercises with 3 sets per exercise. Now you could do 5 and 3, 6 and 2. It's personal preference, but I personally like spreading my efforts out across multiple exercises because I feel that by limiting the amount of sets that I do per exercise and moving on to another exercise fairly shortly after that, that my intensity is going to be better, that my effort and my focus is going to be better. Now once that's done, the next thing to think about is your rep scheme. Now this is a very simple thing to figure out. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter a whole pile how many reps you do in a set, so long as you finish that set at least very close or even at failure. Personally for me, I do most of my work between the 5 and 15 rep range because I feel that the higher that I go in terms of the amount of reps that I do per set, the lower the weight I have to use and the less likely I feel I am to genuinely end that set close to failure. Anyone who's ever done a set of 30 reps on a leg extension, did you really fail at rep 30? Or did you just get bored of the exercise, start mentally telling yourself that you're more tired or more fatigued than you actually are? And did the lactic acid buildup become so uncomfortable that you just stopped the set even though your muscles were probably capable of contracting for another couple of repetitions? So that's why I'm biased towards using a heavy weight for a slightly lower to moderate amount of repetitions, because I feel that I'm much more likely to actually end the set close to failure. As well as that, I'll usually do my big compound exercises at a lower rep range, somewhere around that 4 to 6, such as a barbell bench press, dumbbell bench press, a back squat. The reason being is I want to get stronger at those particular exercises because I feel that having a stronger chest, having stronger quads is only going to pay me back in terms of my overall muscle development. Then as I progress throughout the rest of the session, I'll slightly taper back the amount of weight that I'm using and I'll bump up the repetition slightly, maybe somewhere between that 6 to 12 or 6 to 15 rep range. And finally, you need to think about your rest periods. So for bigger muscle groups and for bigger exercises, you're going to need more rest than you will for smaller exercises, for smaller muscle groups. So for example, you're not going to need as much rest on a bicep curl as you are going to need on a set of back squats. And in general, you should be resting enough in order to be capable of competently performing the next set so that your performance in the next set is not compromised to the extent that you're lifting less weight and lifting less repetitions than you might otherwise be capable of had you rested a little bit longer. I would rather you rest too much than rest too little. So once you've set up your training program, whether you're going 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, or even 6 days a week, I implore you to stay consistent with that for at least 6 weeks. If after a minimum of 6 weeks you want to chop and change a couple of exercises, by all means go for it. But in between that, don't be seeking variety and novelty just for the sake of variety and novelty. Because while it might feel good to change up your exercises every single session, if you're not getting the practice, the repetition that you need with the exercises that you perform in the gym consistently enough, you're not going to be getting as skilled at those exercises as you otherwise could be, and hence you're going to be leaving strength gains and muscle gains on the table. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now that you know what to do in the gym, you've no fucking excuse but to go in and do it. And if you like this video and if it helped you figure out and get more clarity over your training, make sure to like it, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and make sure to tune into the next one. Take care.